Hello again. Welcome to another session of the 15th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. We have with us today Dr. Thomas Dyer. He is a professor in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Grand Canyon University. And also Dr. John Steele. He's an associate professor in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Grand Canyon University. They are associated with the Journal of Scholarly Engagement, and we are going to learn all about publishing and peer reviewing for the Journal of Scholarly Engagement. Take it away, guys.
All right, thank you, Bob, and
Thanks, Bob.
thank you again for allowing us to present at this wonderful conference, one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's our agenda for the presentation today. We're going to introduce you to the editorial staff for the Journal of Scholarly Engagement, introduce you to our editorial board, learn a little bit about the JSE, the goals of the JSE, and we'll talk about the uniqueness of the JSE, which are our author guides. And so that's something that you may not see in many other, if any, journals, that are focused on scholarship of teaching and learning or scholarship of application and integration. So that's going to be really unique to the JSE. And we'll look at some relevant articles to showcase some examples of what an article would look like for the journal. And then we'll go over what makes a manuscript a good fit, appropriate studies for the JSE, how to prepare a manuscript, and then serving as a peer reviewer. And then we'll go through the review process and take any of your questions. So looks like a lot to get to discuss, so let's get started. So this is our editorial staff. You have myself, Thomas Dyer. I'm the editor-in-chief of the journal. I just started as editor-in-chief in August of 2022. And so this is a new role for me, and I'm excited to be learning as I go and helping you scholars out there get published in a peer-reviewed journal. And then you have my associate editor is John Steele, who's with us today, and he'll be helping me with some of this presentation. And then we have a managing editor, Jenny Cuban. She takes care of all the behind the scenes, our website. She deals with Scholastica and the marketing of our journal as far as social media and then getting the journal to print. And my associate editor, Kelly McGuire, she does a lot of help with us for, she's an associate editor. She works with a lot of our writers who are maybe struggling with the guides or need a little more hands-on assistance after peer review feedback. So that's all of our roles. This is our editorial board, and you can see we have a very diverse group of editorial board members. Dr. Laura Cruz from Pennsylvania State University, Dr. Jean Mandernack, Dr. Emily Sally from Park University, Dr. Delia Sheriff from Lone Star College, Dr. Kelvin Thompson from the University of Central Florida, and last but not least, Dr. Sarah Singletary Walker from Creighton University. So we definitely rely on these folks for direction, advice, assistance when needed. So they're a great asset to us. So a little bit about the JSE. It's a fairly new journal. The journal was established in 2018, and it's supported by Grand Canyon University. When I say support, meaning that the journal is open access. So it's free, and you don't have to pay to get to read an article. You don't have to pay to submit an article. Everything's open access, it's free and available. And GCU supports all of that. They support the printing of all of our journals as well. We try to send 1 or 2 copies to each author after they are published in the journal. And the JSE publishes twice a year in November and June. And we accept manuscripts on a rolling basis. So anytime you are ready to submit a manuscript, you can do so. You do not have to wait for any deadlines. outside of our special editions, and we'll talk a little bit about that here soon. The Journal of Scholarly Engagement provides faculty with an academic outlet to document, share, and disseminate primarily in Boyer's domains of teaching, application, and integration. And we'll talk a little bit about Boyer later. Hopefully many of you are familiar with Boyer, Ernest Boyer. I'll explain a little bit how that fits. We are a Boyer University as far as that's where our scholarship is surrounded by. We do practice Boyer's model. And the JSE features many different types of articles. We theoretic articles, empirically based research articles, critical reflections, case studies, classroom innovations, relevant computer mediated learning, anything that includes teaching, learning, assessment, pedagogy, content, organizational issues, all of those things that deal with the classroom and then the greater community as well. Let's talk about the goals of the JSE. So our goals are to promote scholarship, again, in Boyer's domains of teaching, application, and integration. If you're not familiar with Boyer, there are 4 domains. The one I'm leaving off is discovery, which is that typical empirical research, new type research that you will see in most journals. But what we found was lacking was mostly in the areas of application and integration because of the way how Boyer describes those. And we'll talk, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But that's the focus, is mostly on scholarship teaching, integration, and application. And another goal of the JSE is to foster dialogue concerning faculty involvement in scholarly activities. And we want to continue to enhance the understanding of all of Boyer's 4 domains and promote practical knowledge that can inform both research and practice. So very much a practice-based journal. And so we want to promote and create opportunities for faculty or community members to do this. Excuse me. Okay, so I briefly mentioned at the beginning that we are a guide-driven journal, and which is very different than most journals that you've probably submitted a proposal to or an article to or have peer-reviewed for. So we have very specific guides that are grounded in research. So we have the guide, and I know it's probably a little tough to see the pictures here, but the first guide on the left that you will see is the guide for reflection on interdisciplinary problems. So this would be the focus on Boyer's component of integration. And so looking at interdisciplinary issues, like if you're teaching, you know, a math class and you have an issue that is in your math class, and then you coordinate with somebody who teaches sociology, and you all come up with some sort of you know, problem that you both share, and a way to answer that problem. You can do research interdisciplinary into the mixing of using the same strategy in math and social work. So this guide will take you through sort of an outline to go ahead and put together your publication. So it'll talk about the different headings, what should go in those headings, the guidelines for those headings, and page limits for those, or page guides for those. The next guide that you will see right after that is our professional profile guide. And so this is more talking about outlining something that you've hoped to accomplish with a scholarly activity. You can discuss a scholarly activity in your institutional department or in your community, discuss general scholarship, commitment, time commitment, number of collaborations, just looking at providing an outline of what you hope to accomplish in your professional career. The next guide is our most popular guide, and it is the guide for reflective practice. And so this is where you will take a problem that you're having in your class, and then you will basically do a reflection. and looking at, well, what's the purpose of the reflection, what's your intended outcome, describing a problem, looking at the working ideas, writing a reflective narrative, and looking at the evaluation of some of the different ideas that you considered, and then making that decision. What was the decision you made to overcome that problem, and writing up that part, and then the reflective critique. So this is our most popular. Most of the manuscripts that we publish in the JSE are reflective in nature. And the next and last guide that we have currently, and we were constantly considering and developing guides. So we started with the guide for reflective practice and grew out of that. Like the GRIP guide, the interdisciplinary, grew from the guide to reflective practice. The last guide is our community profile, and its purpose is to focus on the application of Boyer's model. And so working with the community, and what's the purpose of this community engagement. And I don't want to talk too much about this right now. I'm going to talk about this later, about application integration, Boyer's model. So, but those are our 4 guides that we currently have. And then we also have our special editions, which are not listed here because they vary. Our current special edition will be coming out June of 2023, and its title is Reflecting on Culturally Responsive Instructional Strategies Supporting Indigenous Learners. And we have a guest editor who is a professor at the Alaska Christian College, Katie Archer Olson. And so she's our guest editor. And we do have a special due date for these manuscripts, which is February 27th. And so we've got several that are coming in. We've got a commitment from several from Alaska Christian College, Northern Arizona University, that will be adding their expertise to this topic. And then we already have looking forward to our special edition of June of 2024, which is titled Social Presence Literacy and Maintaining Professional Relationships in Remote and Online Environments. So I think many of you who are viewing these presentations and being a part of this conference would be a great candidate to support and add some of your expertise into that special edition. So those are the guide's authors and special editions. And I'm gonna hand it off to John. He's gonna talk about some of our specific articles that revolve around those guides.
Hey, thanks, Tom. So I'm gonna do just what he said. I'm gonna highlight a few different examples of some of the articles that we received that we have the writing guides for. So the first type of article I wanted to mention, and it's, as Tom had stated earlier, it's the most popular submission to our journal. And that is of a reflective practice article. And JSE has a reflective practice guide that walks the readers and are the authors right through the process. And reflective practice is just one way to analyze and evaluate such scholarly activities. Reflective practice is understood as a process of learning through and from experience towards gaining new insights of self or practice. And in this way, reflective practice allows practitioners to understand practical problems better and relate this deeper understanding to more significant issues within their discipline. So the first example that we're going to take a look at here that Tom has up there was authored by Amy Anderson of Spokane Community College, Whitworth University, and Gonzaga University. The article is titled Reflecting on Training to Facilitate Collaborative Online International Learning Courses. And I'm just going to kind of go through kind of what the article is about to kind of give you an idea of this kind of article. So the purpose of this reflective practice was to explore an unexpected revelation that collaborative online international learning, or COIL, courses are an engaging and equitable way to enhance students' intercultural communication skills. This discovery happened after participating in a COIL training designed to mimic a virtual global exchange course. In this training, I learned collaboratively with an international teaching partner to design a course that would include a problem-based learning project with students from the United States and Brazil. Through the reflective process, my views about online learning were transformed, and I discovered that virtual learning could be collaborative and engaging. I also realized that COIL is a cost-effective alternative to study abroad programs where students can learn about various cultures. This reflective manuscript details my experience as I participated in training to facilitate COIL classes. A subsequent manuscript will elaborate on the reflective practice of my experience teaching a COIL class. So that's the abstract and kind of example of the first and most popular type of article, which is the reflective practice. All right, so now we're going to move on to a different kind of article, which is the community engagement portfolio. So the JSC also has a collaborative community engagement guide that walks authors through the writing process that Tom showed you right before this. And this guide aims to provide potential authors with an outline of requirements that must be met to write a collaborative community engagement manuscript for the JSC. The JSC focuses on faculty applying and integrating disciplinary knowledge into various scholarly activities. A collaborative community engagement manuscript is just one way to analyze, evaluate, and communicate the results of a specific category of scholarly activities. Collaboration between academic and scholars of the local community and other local organizations that support the community is a crucial component of the collaborative community engagement. So I want to share another example here of a community engagement portfolio. This one's titled Making an Impact in Community Athletics, Teaching Sport Psychology to High School Coaches by Kristen Maldine and Ed Garrett from California Baptist University. And now I'm just going to kind of go through the abstract as to give you a good example of this. So the Coaches Clinic was created in order to serve the community by teaching concepts and techniques and sports psychology to Riverside Unified School District high school coaches, and to provide training for students in the Master of Science, Sport, and Performance Psychology program at Cal Baptist University. The Coaches Clinic was formed as a result of collaboration with the RUSD and served to support the RUSD's 3Cs initiative, which is community, character, and conditioning. 3 3-hour workshops were conducted over 3 different seasons to cover all of the coaches' off seasons. These workshops were evaluated by the attending coaches. The results of these evaluations presented, followed by a discussion of the benefits of these workshops, as well as the areas of improvement. Finally, reflection is given to benefit to the MS SPP graduate students and faculty. So that's kind of just the abstract of that type of article to kind of highlight the community profile. Now, the last example we're going to look at here is a reflection article on interdisciplinary problems. And this one's titled The Plot Skeleton as a Teaching Tool for Introducing Plot Infliction, a Reflective Inquiry. And this was by Anne-Lee Miller of Grand Canyon University. And GCU also provides a writing guide for authors looking to submit this type of reflective practice article on interdisciplinary problems as well. So now a little bit of this abstract to kind of highlight this article. Undergraduate creative writing courses are tasked with layering a foundation for students' future writing. Plotting is a complex fiction writing concept, complicated by writers and scholars' conflicting views on the subject. For years, I've used author Angela Hunt's 2013 plot skeleton to teach plotting. Though the activity is popular and enables students to implement plotting concepts in their stories, reflecting on the module revealed why the plot skeleton succeeds. It requires high expectations of students, addresses multiple ways of learning, gives ample opportunities for participation, and is considered fun by students, facilitates group interaction, and employs a gradual release of responsibility teaching format. So all of these articles are also located on our JSC journal website that I'm sure Tom will give you later. And these are just, wanted to highlight these 3 examples of the 3 of the different articles that we have writing guides for to kind of help you through the process. Thank you. And now I'll hand it back over to Tom.
All right. Thank you, John, for that phenomenal walkthrough of some of these excellent articles that have been showcased in the JSE over the years. And so let's get into some of the areas that you're probably excited to learn about. What makes a manuscript a good fit for the JSE? So the JSE publishes material highlighting faculty scholarly engagement, in which faculty have applied their disciplinary knowledge in teaching, applied, and integrative activities. I'm sure most of you know what SOTL is, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. This is a primary focus for the JSE, and something that this entire conference is really geared towards, the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. So I know many of you are familiar with that. I won't spend a lot of time, but we are always looking for articles that can highlight some of the strategies that you're using in your classrooms, and then let's talk about those outcomes that your students are having based on those strategies. So a lot of reflective practice goes along with this. We see a lot of that for the articles coming through for the JSE, but we will also accept empirical articles as well, literature reviews, theoretical articles, things like that. We also are looking at application, the Boyer's model of application, which is sort of an interesting approach to Boyer's model. So a lot of people, agree or disagree on how application is seen and reflected in Boyer's model. So I can point back to the second article that John talked about with the coaching clinics. This is a great example of application. And so Boyer would say that if to do it, you would take a scholarly activity, something that you're an expert in. So if you're an expert in sports psychology, that is your main focus of teaching. And then you do what these folks did is create a coaching clinic to support coaching staffs throughout a K-12 school district, and creating this program that is taking your expertise, your knowledge, and applying it in a different way outside of the classroom into the community. Boyer would say that that entire project is scholarship. That's a scholarly activity. That is scholarship. That is scholarship of application. You don't really need to do anything else, that you've done scholarship now. However, for most universities to move through the process of rank and tenure, they like to see write-ups, right? They want to see something that was peer reviewed, something that's in your field of knowledge and widely disseminated. And so it's hard to explain something like application without writing something up. And that's the gap. That's why the JSE was created, because we saw this area of need on those who wanted to participate in Boyer's model of application and integration, to provide space for them to then take that information and present it, package it into a scholarly manuscript. And so using any of those guides that we have, the reflective practice, the GRIP guide, the community profile, any of those would work to do just that for application and integration. And, as in the nature of all referee journals, acceptance and publications of original manuscripts is a competitive process. So we do get a lot of manuscripts in all the time. And so the best thing that I can suggest is to use one of our guides. If you're not interested in using one of our guides and you want to do something different, that would work as well. Just reach out to myself and we can have a conversation about that, and maybe even suggest how it would fit better in a guide. But we're happy to have those conversations. We're a very attentive group of editorial staff. I know that a lot of journals aren't very receptive to that or communicative. I've had my fair share of, I'm still waiting on some responses from editors regarding, manuscripts that have been sitting for 6+ months. And so I get it, everyone's busy, but we try to be a very communicative bunch. And so we want to help and assist as best as we can. And so let's talk about what are appropriate studies for the JSE. Well, we've kind of done that already. Those community engagement portfolios, the reflective practice on teaching, and applied and integrative scholarly activities, professional profiles. We also accept empirical research on teaching and applied and integrative scholarly activities. literature reviews, theoretical papers on the teaching, and applied and integrative scholarly activities. So those are all appropriate studies for the JSE. We do, again, focus mostly on scholarship, teaching and learning, applied and integrative activities. So if it's specific to a content that's not about the teaching of that content or the application or an integration of that content, then it probably would not be a good fit for the JSE. And there's many, many different fantastic journals that it would be a good fit at. And let's talk about how to prepare a manuscript for submission. So the JSE utilizes an online manuscript submission and review platform that's hosted by Scholastica. And so I'm sure lots of you have used Scholastica. We obviously require no identifying information on the manuscript, which is including that title page. Manuscripts should be organized and formatted according to APA 7th edition style. They should be written in clear English and targeted at a general academic audience. The maximum length of submissions for most submissions are 30 pages, which is letter size, 1-inch margins, double space. This includes abstracts, appendices, references, figures, and tables. We do make some length exceptions for those supporting documents. So if you have a ton of things that need to go into an appendix, we can make some exceptions for that. But that's a typical manuscript for submission, and that's how our guides are set up to meet those requirements. And how can I serve as a peer reviewer? So I can say that this is something that we are very much in need of, our excellent peer reviewers. And so let me tell you a little bit about what we would like from our peer reviewers. We call you the peer review board, and you're responsible for reviewing 2 to 4 manuscripts per year and providing feedback according to pre-established sets of criteria. So because we have guides, we also have created rubrics for our peer reviewers as well. So as long as if it's like something that was submitted as a guide, using the guide, we have a specific rubric that will help you guide you through that peer review process. So those are helpful. If we have like an empirical or theoretical or literature review, the peer review is more organic and looking at the content and the writing. But we try not to focus too much on a lot of the writing. We do have a copy editor who does all of that for us. And let me just talk a little bit about my personal theory on peer reviewing, and maybe it will help you. I shared this recently with some colleagues who I just assumed everybody thought this way. So now I'm sharing it with anyone that I meet because I've learned that not everybody thinks this way. And so it is sometimes very difficult if you talked with editors of journals to find good peer reviewers that can meet deadlines and just be available. Because peer reviewing is a service to the profession. There's no payment involved, of course. It's free, and everyone's very, very busy. And so the way that it helps me is that for any article that I submit, so if I'm submitting a manuscript to another journal in a year, and I'm already assuming I'll have to have 2 peer reviewers that are going to have to review my article. And so my thinking is that for every article that I submit, I'm going to peer review 2 articles for whatever journal. That's my way of giving back and saying, okay, I know that 2 other faculty members, experts in the field, are going to have to spend their time reviewing my article just for it to go through the publishing process. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 2 as well. So if I submit 2 articles in a year, I'm going to make it a goal of mine to peer review 4 articles in a year. I almost always do like 4, 5, 6 times as many as that because I have trouble saying no. And but that's my philosophy around peer reviewing. It makes sense to me, and it's just part of the role of being a faculty member and being a scholar, that we are committed to the community of scholars as a whole, and that we all work together to move through these processes that, just are part of our everyday jobs. Well, not really part of our everyday jobs, but part of who we are as faculty. And so that's sort of my theory. If that helps you at all, that helps me rationalize, like, why do I do some of these things? And it's just really being a part of the process and giving back. So once we have you as a peer reviewer, and you can sign up to be a peer reviewer, you can either use this link here. You can type that in, copy and paste it, or you can use this QR code right here. And that'll take you to our peer reviewer application page. It's very short, should take you just a few minutes to fill out. And then once we have you part of the process, as articles come in, we will do, a review of that article and find those who are a good fit for that article. And so that's the process. And again, you can apply to be a peer reviewer here. I hope that you do. We are very much in need of good, competent peer reviewers. So let's quickly just go through the peer review process. This is probably very standard for most journals, and everything goes through the Scholastica system. When an article comes in, I, as the editor, complete a desk review and do an initial review and read of the article to verify first, is this a good fit for the JSE? Is it on topic? Is it, does it meet the standards that we've set forth? What type of article is it? If it's a reflective practice or a community profile or an interdisciplinary study, is it using one of our guides? If not, would a guide help this to be a better fit for the JSE? So I do all of that in the desk review. And then once I decide that it's good, ready to go, I move it on to and send it out to peer reviewers. So usually send it to a group of 2 peer reviewers first. And obviously everything is a double anonymized peer review process. I don't know if that term is familiar with all of you. In the past, we use the term double blind peer review. I'm just moving away from some of that language to a double anonymized now. So, but all of our go through that process. And I attempt to match those manuscripts with reviewers that are experts in that field. So if I get, like we got the sports psychology article and community profile, we attempt to find at least one reviewer who's very comfortable and competent in sports psychology. And we try to find another reviewer who's really good with those community profiles, who understand that process. So a little bit of a mix there. The reviews come back in, I review them to see, what the scores were. And I then have to make a decision. Do I send it out for another set of reviews, or do I make a reject, revise, resubmit, or accept? So if it's a revise and resubmit, I would send it out back to the author. They would do resubmissions, and then it would go out to another set of peer reviewers. If it's a reject, then we, send the unfortunate message back that unfortunately this is not going to continue through the process, and then they can decide what they want to do next. And we'll give them the feedback from the reviewers. And then the other 2 types of decisions we have is an accept pending revisions or accept. So if we get an accept pending revisions after it goes through peer review, we will send back, they will do revisions, and then I will do another review as the editor, and then do the accept, or if I need them to do more revisions, or if they didn't complete the correct revisions, send it back to them. And there's just a full accept. It goes through peer review process. It's stellar. Nothing else needs to happen. This is rarely ever the decision. Unfortunately, that happens. It almost always, all of you know, I'm sure, reviewer 2, who often you get really good feedback from reviewer 1, and then reviewer 2 has a lot of things to work on. And even as editor, I go through those to see, if they're legitimate, valid complaints. And so that's the process of review. And so we are nearing the end of this presentation. So I'd love to take some questions. Bob, any questions for us?
Well, I've been looking through the articles from, mainly from the most recent issue in November. You come out twice a year in addition to special issues?
November and June, and usually June is our special edition.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I don't have something about your presentation. If I were a faculty member, I probably would. But I do have something I want to talk with you about in a moment. Do you have
Sure.
anything else you wanted to add before I stop the recording?
I think that's it. Just thank you, for allowing us the time to do this.
Yeah,
Great.
thank
I
you.
learned a lot. Thanks.